Why was a man still fighting a war that the rest of the world had already forgotten? That is not a hypothetical question. It happened. And the answer will make you question how many invisible wars you are still fighting yourself. In 1974, in the dense jungle interior of Lubang Island in the Philippines, a man emerged from the trees. He was carrying a working rifle, a military uniform he had kept clean and pressed for 3 decades, and orders that were 29 years out of date. His name was Hiroo Onoda, and the Second World War had ended in 1945. To understand what Hiroo Onoda did, you first have to understand what Hiroo Onoda was. He was a soldier. Specifically, he was a product of Imperial Japanese military culture, a culture in which an order was not a suggestion. It was not open to interpretation. It was not subject to external circumstances. An order was an order until the person who gave it told you it was finished. That is the entire operating system of the man's life. In 1944, Japan is losing the war. The Americans are advancing across the Pacific, island by island. The empire is contracting. Hiroo Onoda is 22 years old. He is sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines with one instruction from his commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi.
Hold the island. Do not surrender. Fight until you are officially relieved of duty. Those were the last orders Hiroo Onoda ever received. 1945. The atomic bombs fall on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrenders unconditionally. The Second World War is over. Hiroo Onoda does not know this. Or, more precisely, he knows something has happened. He has heard things, seen things, but he has a framework for understanding those things that has nothing to do with surrender. American planes begin flying over the jungle, dropping leaflets. The war is over. Come out. You are safe. Onoda reads them. He considers them carefully, and he concludes they are forgeries, all of them. The enemy is sophisticated. This is exactly what they would do to break a soldier's resolve. He returns to his position. Here is where the story stops being about war and starts being about something else entirely, something about the human capacity to remain committed to a reality that no longer exists. The years pass. Onoda is not alone at first. He has 3 comrades, Shoichi Shimada, Kinshichi Kozuka, and Yuichi Akatsu. Together, they conduct guerrilla operations across Lubang Island. They raid villages for food and supplies. They engage local police in firefights. They are not ghosts. They are active combatants, dangerous, disciplined, fully operational. In a war that ended years ago. 1950, the Korean War begins and ends. 1957, the space age begins. 1963, a president is assassinated in Dallas. 1969, men walk on the moon. Hiroo Onoda is in the jungle, cleaning his rifle, holding the island, waiting for orders. One by one, his comrades leave him. Akatsu surrenders in 1950. He walks out of the jungle and gives himself up. In Onoda's mind, a man who broke under pressure, a soldier who failed. Shimada is shot and killed in 1954 during a firefight with a search party. Kozuka, his closest companion, is killed in 1972 during a raid on local farmers. By 1972, Hiroo Onoda has been in the jungle for 28 years. He is 50 years old. He is completely alone. And he has not disobeyed a single order. In 1974, a young Japanese student named Norio Suzuki decides he wants to go on an adventure. He tells his friends he is going to travel the world and find 3 things: Hiroo Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order. His friends laughed. Onoda had become something of an urban legend in Japan by this point. Everyone knew the story, the soldier who never came back, the ghost of Lubang Island. But Suzuki was not looking for a ghost. He genuinely believed the man was out there. He flew to the Philippines. He went to Lubang Island. He walked into the jungle, and he found him. Hiroo Onoda was 52 years old. His uniform was pressed, his rifle was clean and fully operational. He was exactly where his orders told him to be. Suzuki spent several days with him in the jungle. They talked, they shared food. Onoda was not wild, not broken. He was lucid, disciplined, and completely certain of what he was doing and why. Suzuki asked him to come out.
Onoda told him he could not until he received official orders from his commanding officer. Suzuki returned to Japan with photographs. He went to the government and said, "He is there. He is real. He is still waiting." Japan began searching for Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, the man who had given Hiroo Onoda his orders in 1944. They found him. He was 77 years old. He was a bookseller in Tokyo. He had built a quiet civilian life, a small shop, familiar customers, the rhythm of ordinary days. And somewhere in a jungle on a Philippine island, a soldier was still carrying out his last command. The Japanese government asked Taniguchi to fly to Lubang Island, to walk into the jungle, to find the man who had been waiting 30 years for this exact moment. Taniguchi walked into the trees, and he found Hiroo Onoda, still in uniform, still armed, still a soldier. Taniguchi read him the official order. In accordance with the Imperial Japanese Army, all combat activity is to cease immediately. Lay down your weapons. Onoda wept, not out of relief. He said later that he wept because he felt he had failed, that all the men who had died following those same orders had died for something that was now simply being switched off with a sentence. He felt he had let them down. He laid down his rifle. It was March 9th, 1974. He was 52 years old. He had been a soldier for his entire adult life.
The Philippine government was waiting for him when he emerged. By this point, Hiroo Onoda had been documented engaging in firefights that killed 30 people on Lubang Island across 3 decades. Raids, ambushes, armed engagements with police and civilians alike. They pardoned him on the spot. Because legally, technically, formally, Hiroo Onoda had never stopped being a soldier. He had never disobeyed an order. He had never abandoned his post. He had done exactly what he was told to do for exactly as long as he was told to do it. There was no legal framework to prosecute a man for following orders. He walked free. Hiroo Onoda returned to Japan, to a country he no longer recognized. The Japan he had left in 1944 was an empire at war with half the world. The Japan he returned to in 1974 was one of the most prosperous, modern, peaceful nations on Earth. The cities were unrecognizable. The culture had transformed completely. The people moved differently, dressed differently, spoke about different things. He was a man from a world that no longer existed, walking through a world that had been built entirely without him. He could not stay. He moved to Brazil. He built a farm. He started again. Japan changed its military discharge protocols after his case. There was now a formal, documented procedure for ensuring soldiers received official confirmation of a war's end through chain of command, not through leaflets, not through newspapers, not through photographs or letters from family, through the same chain of command that gave the original order. Because of one man who took his oath more literally than anyone had anticipated. Hiroo Onoda eventually returned to Japan in his later years. He worked with young people. He ran outdoor survival programs. He believed deeply in discipline, commitment, and the importance of knowing what you stand for. He never expressed regret for what he had done. He said the only thing he regretted was that his comrades had died. He died on January 16, 2014. He was 91 years old. And now, here is the question worth sitting with. Hiroo Onoda was not stupid. He was not weak. He was not confused. He was one of the most disciplined, committed, and capable human beings who ever lived. And he spent 29 years fighting a war that was already over, because nobody in his chain of command told him it had ended. So the question is not about him. The question is about you. What war are you still fighting? What order were you given by a parent, a teacher, a culture, a version of yourself that no longer exists, that you are still carrying out because nobody officially told you it was finished? What jungle are you still holding, waiting for a permission that may never come from a commanding officer who has long since become a bookseller and forgotten they ever gave the order? The war is over. It has been over for a long time.